Hey, welcome back to the Rooftop and welcome to the fire pit. I have a question for you. Do you ever have a challenge getting your prospects to lean in and listen to what you're saying, to get them to focus and pay attention on the products or services that you're putting out there? Well, you're not alone. Lots of folks deal with this. Lots of folks wrestle with this, especially in a trust-depleted, disengaged, distracted arena that we operate in today. I saw it all the time as a Green Beret working in tribal villages, but in the last several years since I've been working with business leaders, I've noticed it a lot at small business level, medium, and even Fortune 100 companies. Not too long ago, I was sitting in on a sales meeting, and the young man who was making the pitch to the potential clients, he didn't hit it out of the park, let's just say that. He was very knowledgeable technically. He talked a lot about the product, a lot about the service, but very early on, you can see the screensavers start to come across the faces of the prospects, and they were not present. They politely endured the pitch. They made some small talk and they left. And you could see the frustration on the young man's face. I'll call him Jim. And he said, I cannot get folks to pay attention in these meetings. And what I did at that moment, as I just shared a story with him about an engagement that I had also witnessed in southern Afghanistan several years prior, where a young captain from the infantry had gone into a meeting with tribal elders. And in that meeting, he had laid out all of the agenda that the coalition forces were trying to promote in this area. Everything from justice to governance to dispute resolution to food security, security of all the villages. He had an agenda and he was just going down it. And the elders, some of them were just looking at him. Some of them were smiling and nodding politely. But then when the meeting was over, they walked out, they shook hands, and he thought, man, that was a great meeting. It worked. And I looked at him and I said, they're not gonna do any of that. They switched off a long time ago. They're not part of this. They don't feel engaged or connected to what you just said. It was hard for him to swallow that, but quickly he saw that, sure enough, there was no follow-through. Because look, this isn't a universal singular issue. This is not reserved for corporate America. This is not reserved for tribal Afghanistan. The fact of the matter is humans are meaning-seeking, emotional, social creatures. So if we're gonna persuade them or influence them, or better yet, inspire them to lean in and listen, we have to worry and work on more than just our instincts on this. We need to build a skill set. And it starts by understanding those realities that I just told you. We have to understand that another human being across from you, whether it's your spouse, your teenage daughter, or a prospective client, they're not moving anywhere. They're not going to take action. They're not going to stick the proverbial jugular out unless they feel psychologically safe around you. Do you understand this? This is 250,000 years old, like this is primal. And one of the best ways that we can do that is to do what I talk about in my book, Game Changers, where you meet them where they are. It's the first rule in human engagement. If you don't meet people where they are in that moment, they're not coming with you. I don't care how good your agenda is. I don't care how many PowerPoint slides you have in your PowerPoint deck. They're not coming. They have to feel like you get them at a visceral, emotional level. This is a human nature thing. This is below the waterline. This is primal. And the Rooftop leaders understand this. So meeting people where they are in that moment. If your teenage daughter is upset or frightened or angry, if you can't meet her where she is and bring her emotional temperature down, then it's very, very difficult to move forward on any kind of positive action with her. If the prospective client is still fuming over a conversation they had in their last meeting within their own company, and you can't meet them where they are and bring their emotional temperature to a level where they're ready to listen to you, they're not coming. It doesn't matter how good your sales pitch is. So meeting people where they are becomes a lifelong skill. Narrative competence is one of the best ways to do that. The integration of old school storytelling, active listening, and physical presence where you are really available to the other party. It sounds easy, but it's not. And integrating all those so that you can meet your goals is super difficult. But this rule of meeting people where they are, I want to go a step further on that. Can you, in the moment, ask thoughtful, open-ended questions that allow the other party across from you to respond in a story? It could be a question of like, well, what led you into this business? I'm really curious because it seems like you did this when you were in college, but then you started this. That's fascinating. How did that happen? And they'll tell you a story. Or it seems like this really isn't going anywhere with us right now. Can you tell me what's going on right now? Is everything all right? Is there something that I'm not getting here? Or at the end of the conversation, you know, this was a great conversation, but I feel like maybe there's more to it. Is there anything I missed? What did we not talk about that we should have talked about? Those are all thoughtful, open-ended questions. And it allows the other party, it validates them immediately, it brings their emotional temperature down, and they will respond to you in narrative. It creates incremental psychological safety, and it gets them ready to listen. And by the way, they're going to give you the goods. They're going to tell you, because of that thoughtful, open-ended question, it's a quality question, they're going to probably give you a quality answer. And it doesn't have to be necessarily about the topic. It can be genuinely interested in that person. Remember, David Noor says that relationships are the business leader's greatest off-book asset. So can I ask thoughtful, open-ended questions that just allow me to make a deeper connection, to build a relationship? The relationship is the asset, right? And those will eventually lead you to a point where their emotional temperature is to a point where they're ready to listen. And you'll know it because we've been doing this for 250,000 years. And if you're present and available, you'll know when that emotional temperature comes down, and then you pivot into this. Would it be okay if I asked you a question? Would it be okay if I talk about what we're trying to do in order to meet your goals? Now let me back up to one more thing. When I'm asking those thoughtful, open-ended questions, I'd sure like to know the other party's goals. Stuart Diamond talks about this in his book, Getting More. It's just because we're creatures of reciprocity. If I know the other party's goals and I can repurpose them into the conversation, and then I ask permission to talk about what we do and I nest it under their goals and how what we do serves those goals, and I speak to that, it's super validating. You're telling their story better than they do, and you're integrating what you do and how you can serve it. These are just some best practices in any industry, any discipline, whether you're a Green Beret, a law enforcement officer doing community policing, or you're a Fortune 100 sales rep. You got to meet people where they are. You got to get them ready to listen. You got to ask thoughtful, open-ended questions that allow them to tell you where they're at on things, bring their emotional temperature down, and ultimately what their goals are, what matters to them, where their pain is. And then you ask permission to speak to that in the context of what you do and what you have to offer. Works. Been doing it a long time, and I've seen it work in some amazing, amazing circles. So thanks for what you do. I hope you'll put this into place right away. Make those connections, get them ready to listen, get them ready to lean in and listen. I'll see you on the rooftop.